VP of Customer Success EMEA and APAC at Brandwatch, and session moderator Elaine Cleary, Customer Success Director at Gainsight.
Hello, everyone. Hope you had a great lunch. Thank you for joining us for this session. I'm really excited. I love this format. It's a debate format. For those of you who are not familiar with how this works, please break out your phones, and we're going to take a poll on whether CSMs should have variable compensation or not. While you're taking this poll in Slido, I'll explain what's going to happen next. Our two wonderful presenters are going to share their perspectives on this topic. Then we're going to move to some Slido Q&A. They're going to try and influence how you feel about this topic. And then we're going to bring up the same Slido poll at the very end and see if anyone has changed their minds based on this debate. That's how the format works. So I'm going to take a quick look at the Slido poll results. It looks like, wow, overwhelmingly, the opinion is close to just over 60% that CSM should have variable compensation.
Looks like I've got my work cut out, hey?
You absolutely have your work cut out to try and convince them otherwise. This should be a very interesting debate. So we'll shut this poll down in just one moment. I'm going to turn it over to you, and I will be back on stage for some Q&A and our final poll. Thank you both.
Thanks, Elaine.
Cheers. Okay, so some final votes coming in. Yes, that is a really strong yes. My name is Johnny Davis. I'm VP Customer Success for Brandwatch. Very nice to be here today, and thank you for coming to listen to us debate. Brandwatch, just for those of you who don't know, is a social listening platform. We're one of the leading social listening providers in the world. We give businesses the ability to hear what's being said about them online effectively. So yeah, and I'm here representing, I'm kind of pro variable comp for CSM. So very nice to meet you all.
And I'm Jo, so I'm VP of Customer Success at Slido. I'm pretty sure at this event I don't really need to give Slido too much of an introduction. You've hopefully been using us throughout the last couple of days. We're really helping companies and events to bring the conversation to their meetings and bridge the gap between audiences and speakers like us today. And I'm going for CSM shouldn't have a variable element of compensation. So
cool.
Let's share a little bit more about our companies and how it works there.
Let's do that. So Brandwatch, now I put this slide up a couple of weeks ago. That company size revenue would be a lot smaller, but we recently merged with one of our biggest competitors. I believe you guys are in the room as well. There you are. How you doing? So yeah, we're now 100 million in revenue, which is incredible. Around about 500 employees. That's globally. With probably about 8 different office locations across the world. We've got a CSM team size of around 48. I have the privilege of managing about 25% of that. And yeah, early kind of mid-career customer success managers as well. So those guys at the start or at the middle of their journey looking to, to kind of grow into the role. Now we do have incentive compensation. It is variable. So you get between 15 and 22.5% role dependent, so depending on how senior you are as a CSM. So we have a regular CSM, a senior, and also what we call a customer success director, who typically look after our kind of biggest customers. And each of those layers have certain ratios of customers. We own the renewal de facto, so we are completely accountable and responsible for getting that contract renewed. We don't own expansion, so more on that in a minute. But our sales team are incentivized.
Cool. So yeah, we're quite a small company in comparison to Brandwatch. So we've kind of got about 130 employees worldwide, making about kind of $7 million in annual revenue. Our CSM team is about 11 people. They're spread kind of through the different regions, and a lot of them are very early or mid-career. When it comes to compensation, we don't have sales compensation. We just have one flat compensation across the whole company. And I'll talk a little bit more about why that is. And then when it comes to owning renewal and expansion, I've said yes here, but actually it's a little bit variable. With our biggest accounts, that's kind of owned by the sales team. But since the majority of our accounts, this is kind of how it works. So over to you. Fits your argument.
Awesome. Cool. So yeah, so I'm pro variable comp, and you know, it's one of those things that you think, am I pro just because that's how it is, right? So when I joined Brandwatch, we were variable comp, and that's all I've known at Brandwatch. So I'm going to stand up here and say it's a good thing, right? Because I don't want it to go. But kind of bear with me. So yeah, so we own the renewal, and as I say, it's a big part of the customer success operation. You know, we take onboarding very seriously, becoming trusted advisors, you know, kind of building relationships, etc. But we are then responsible for, you know, for getting that customer over the line and convincing them to stay with us. It's an uncapped variable OTE. Now, uncapped means that, so how it works is we have quarterly retention targets per region in my case, but I'm given a number, which is a percentage of the MRR exposed, monthly recurring revenue. And yeah, if we land on that number, that's when the bonus kicks in. But there's no ceiling to that. So actually, the incentive is there for us to, you know, kind of pull out all the stops to renew as much as possible. Now, there's a caveat there. We don't just, you know, we talk about behaviors and motivations and stuff. We don't just renew because it's kind of death or glory, and we want, you know, you know, because we're getting paid against it. We do try and employ some kind of careful consideration about our renewals and how we go about it. So interestingly, we also have a global accounts team, as you can see here. Now, the global accounts team are a client team, but they're a new business team. Okay, so similar to the customer success manager, but they are completely responsible for expansion. And they have their own sales target, but they only sell to existing customers. And the nice thing about that is they become a customer partner like the customer success manager, okay? They can be there for the kickoff meeting, they can be there for the business reviews, and they can grow with that customer. They're not a stranger that's pulled in when there's a deal on the table. And really, we can work in partnership with each other. And I've seen it work horribly between salespeople and customer success people, I mean field salespeople. Because field salespeople are out in the field, they've got targets to hit, you know, they're under pressure. And one of two things happens, I find, in that when you have an opportunity from an existing customer, they either haven't got the time for it because maybe it's too small, so they're slow getting back to the customer, they give a sluggish demo, they're just not focused, right? Or the opposite happens where they grab hold of a deal and they become completely obsessed by it, and they monopolize this opportunity, and they try and create it into something much bigger, and the CSM can sometimes be seen as a bit of a distraction. Now, either way, that's a terrible customer experience. It creates tension. So what we've done is create this global accounts team who we can work in partnership with. And the final thing I'll say on this is that we have like a cross-pollinated target, okay? So there is an aspect of how we as CSMs are compensated. As you'll see, we can earn an additional percentage of all new business that goes into our base. And similarly, on the new business side, they earn a percentage of everything that we renew as well. It's a small percentage, it's capped, but it is a little motivator to make sure that our motivations are correct and in place, and it helps guide us to kind of work together as a team. I'm going on a lot. So, just a couple of points then. So trust and transparency. So this is my kind of first kind of part of my argument, okay? So in the kind of setup for how we talked about this debate today, it was sort of like, how can you be trusted if you're going to sell to me? Or how can you be trusted as a CSM if you've got any commercial interest in my business? Now, I would challenge that directly and firstly say that if you've got a problem with trust, then where your upsell sits, or if you should variable comp your CSMs, is the least of your worries, right? You get into business, you know, and the first thing that you do is build trust. And just a quick kind of vocal poll. In those early days, does anyone have a good idea of the best way to build trust with a customer? Any thoughts?
Should I use Slido for this?
We need Slido for this. It's basically, as I see it, in my experience, is kind of doing what you said you're going to do, right? In those early days, listening to your customer and doing what you say you're going to do. So I'd say that lack of trust is an issue, right? So it's something that needs to be worked on and built. You also have to earn the right to sell. You have to earn the right to ask difficult questions, I think, whether that's a renewal conversation or an expansion conversation. You know, we talk a lot about becoming a trusted advisor, right? So I would recommend we all aim to become a trusted advisor as much as possible. But is that not then the perfect ground for selling and having a commercial conversation? I think it is. Transparency is another thing. Now, some of the best client relationships we have been forged in the oven of transparency, right? I work in an industry that's heavily regulated, as my Crimson friends will know. And some of our real turning points with clients is where we've sat down with them. We've given them some hard truths about the industry, things that aren't necessarily our fault, but things that have huge impact on their business. And that transparency and that ability to be thought leaders and tell them what these problems are and importantly what we're doing about it has completely galvanized the relationship and set us apart. So transparency of things like roadmap, processes, but also transparency of target. I see absolutely nothing wrong with saying, hey, I'm a commercial CSM, or hey, I'm your expansion guy. And I'm going to be talking to you about your renewal because I see it as a mark of success. Or I'm going to be talking about expansion to you, but only on the basis that we're successful in business together. And if you are going to do that, do it early, okay? Talk about expansion when you're onboarding a customer so that it doesn't become this surprise, okay? And also, as I've said here, get your customers to share their targets and their measures as well. It really helps, though, I think, build a relationship. And if it's not happening, if the customer doesn't want to be sold to, which often they don't, then maybe it's time to try a different approach. So as I say, seed the concept of expansion early on, but only if desired outcomes are achieved. So this is an example of how we share what we do with customers. Okay, now this is an internal document. It's also an external document. So this will happily sit in our internal team meetings, but I will happily talk to a customer about this. And it's a bit of our customer success mantra. So I'm wandering off the point here slightly, but it's around transparency. Okay, so we make every customer successful. No shit. But we do this by obsessively focusing on things, by inspiring our customers and ensuring that everything that we do leads towards what they want to do. Through relentless focus on the following points, driven by these great things that are our tactics. And you'll see at the bottom here, we are measured by net promoter surveys, by retention and growth, and CSAT. I don't see a problem with calling this stuff out. It's a mark of maturity, of honesty, and we're in business at the end of the day. So my next point, I thought this had some animation on it, but that's fine, is that I do believe accountability should be rewarded, okay? So my CSDs, they're in a high-stake game. They're looking after thousands, hundreds of thousands of pounds worth of revenue, on a monthly basis. If one of those goes, that's on their head to an extent, and that carries with it risk, stress. They've got to go and pitch for that business. They've got to negotiate. They've got to really work for it, and I do believe that should be rewarded. However, as is a balanced diet, you should have, your 5 a day. It's not the only thing that should motivate and kind of galvanize your team. Clarity of purpose, consistency in messaging, autonomy, so giving the team the ability to flex and kind of make their own decisions, have them input into decisions, kind of motivating your team and getting them to self-motivate and motivate each other, and personal and professional development. So all of these are a sort of heady combination of ensuring you have a really high-performing team, with variable comp being an aspect of that, but by no means the kind of North Star. And also, get them working on a project, right? Get them, we're building a Confluence CSM information hub at the minute. Now, I'm not paying anyone to do that. No one's being kind of marked on it or rewarded for it. We're doing it because it's broken and it needs doing, and I find that as a big motivational factor. And my last point is around it being a team sport. So this is me wandering quite far away from variable comp. But my point is here, wherever it sits, whether you have a renewals manager or whatever, it's a team sport. Now, and it's important that you understand your role and your purpose, etc. I'm not going to read these bullet points. You can all read. But I think if you're in a team, a customer success team, kind of multidisciplinary or other, and you are not communicating and there's tensions and mixed motivations, the customer experience is that of confusion. Who are all these people? What do they all do? Frustration that they can't get the job done. They can feel pretty hacked off. They can feel sold to. And for you, it sucks as well. There is literally nothing worse. But if you get it right, if you work as that cohesive team, around your client, then the customer experience is phenomenal, right? They feel like they're surrounded by slick, caring, invested professionals, all pulling in the same direction, kind of toward a common goal, and with your best interests at heart. And I think if you can get it right, it's hard, but if you can get it right, for me, it's kind of customer success, kind of very much at its best. So that's my final point. A couple of takeaways there. So being a trusted advisor and thinking customer first earns you the right to sell, or I should say retain. Being transparent on how you are measured and targeted. It's business at the end of the day, and let's use it as an opportunity to galvanize a relationship. Seed ideas early, okay? So don't suddenly start talking about renewal or upsell at month 6 or 9. That's not cool. Make it part of your messaging, your rhetoric. Compensation alone won't cut it. And act as a cohesive team, whatever your mission for customer success, nirvana, whatever that is. So there we go.
Cool, thank you. And
no worries.
That last point feeds quite nicely into my argument, so thanks for teeing that up for me.
Yeah.
So yeah, I really want to kind of ask, and actually I want to know from you guys, what is behind a customer success with your product? So I don't want to just talk about this. I want to hear your opinion. So I've got a poll for you, I hope, which we can just bring up. So if you just go back into your app or go to Slido, hopefully we've got a poll here for you. And one of the things that I have definitely been hearing over the last couple of days at Pulse is that the customer success is bigger than the CSM. It's cross-department, right? And that's kind of what I'm asking you here. Who in your business can impact customer success? Where are the main places that it can come from? And looking at the results here as they're coming in, actually the top voted one here is product, which is super interesting. I think we're probably all very agreed that when it comes to, if you don't have the right product and you don't have the right product fit, your customers are never going to achieve success. And my opinion, and thank you all for your votes and your opinion, very interesting to see this here, but from my perspective, all of these things that I've listed here impacts customer success. I actually asked our company what they think, what impacts our customer success with our product. You can see here that the main things they were also saying was product and care, but bugs, that's why I think QA is really important, uptime, so your DevOps team. I think it's really a cross-functional thing. And if you want to make your customers successful, you need to have it sorted throughout this whole thing. So, will your customers renew if you don't have a good product? Will your customers renew if you're attracting the wrong customers into your funnel? Will they renew if they have a poor customer experience with your brand, be that kind of through social media or through your support experience? And then the question is are your CSMs responsible for any of these parts of the customer journey? Can they actually control that or impact it in any way? I don't think so. That's definitely not the way how it works at Slido. We try to work together and ensure that we're doing the right things for the right reasons, but my CSMs are not responsible. They can't control that. So my question really is it fair then that they're the only ones who are incentivized for renewals or upsells? Again, I don't think so. I think that it makes sense to give everyone the same incentive structure kind of across your organization. Be that your engineers, be that the people who are hiring the talent into your business. Because what you really want to do is rally your whole organization around customer success. Why should you do something just because it's the well-trodden path? I've been having a lot of conversations about this with people over the last couple of days. And a lot of people have been saying to me, well, everyone else incentivizes in this way, so why wouldn't I do it? And it's well, you really need to think if you're doing the right things for the right reasons that drive the right behaviors. I know that I personally have had some very interesting experiences this year alone with salespeople. And I purchased 2 products this year, and I purchased both of them at the end of a quarter. And the stress and the pressure that was put on me by those sales teams, and why did that happen? They were driving that because their incentive and their compensation and their commission was on the line. Like, that wasn't a good customer experience for me. And I would never want to put that pressure on our customers, to create that stress or to make them feel how I did, be that through our sales team, be that through our CSMs. And ultimately, you know, your customer success means your company's continued success. So incentivize around continued success of the whole business. Like, remove commission-based structures and bring something in more that's kind of around how much revenue are you generating, and make it kind of for those people. And yeah, my last kind of points are encourage your team to do the right things for the right reasons. And then this is a point I picked up from someone's presentation yesterday. If you're all about the number, then you're probably in the wrong job. So if this is something that really drives you and is actually really helping you to achieve your goals and your mission, then should you really be a CSM, or should you actually be in more of a sales-driven job? But that's it from me. We'd really love to hear your questions about this. I know that we both have quite strong opinions, so
Yep.
Elaine's coming out, so if you can,
Yeah, let's talk about this a little bit more. Thank you for sharing your perspectives. We're going to go straight to your Slido questions. Just a reminder, you're in the room Zinc, and feel free to vote up the questions. We'll be bringing them up in just a moment. I'm really interested in some thoughts around spiffs, by the way. Have either of you used spiffs for, you know, as a part of variable compensation? I had someone ask me this earlier today.
It's funny, I saw the word spiff yesterday and I didn't really know what it meant. Someone sent me an email about
It's like
it.
a spot bonus. Yeah, I'm not sure who's spreading this around the Pulse conference, but there's a lot of questions around spot bonuses.
Is that like, it was in relation to a referral scheme, right? So I've got a lead for you, here it is, here's a thing. Thank you. Maybe?
Excellent. Oh, here we have our Slido questions up. Thanks, everybody. Oh, some great questions and lots of votes here. First question from the audience, team versus individual revenue goals. Thoughts around this?
I think you're like, I think it has to be the team. So be that just a CSM team or be that the whole company, I think it has to be a team effort. Yeah, that's my opinion.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree that people should be compensated and rewarded in a way that suits them and their function and their objectives. From a CSM perspective, at Brandwatch, it's a team revenue goal, but it's an individual comp result.
How does that work? Do you not find that you have some people in your kind of team that they don't want to take this customer because they feel like it's been missold, or they do you have any struggles with that?
Oh yeah, we have kind of mis-selling from time to time, but we've got to take the customer in most cases, unless it's a terrible mis-sell. But I guess the tension that exists with individual revenue goals is that it's a team target, so there can sometimes be a bit of a dilution of accountability. It's like, well, we're all just kind of mucking in, and it's like, well, hang on. So we are actually moving to individual forecasting, at least. So saying that you at least have to say what you're going to renew as an individual and kind of what you're going to get to. But it is a team sport at the minute.
Yeah, when you're performing very well individually, it's bothersome if the team drags you down. But if you're stuck with a challenging book of business to manage, it's nice that you can rely on the team to pull you up, right?
But also, you know, in the poll that you ran, kind of product was the biggest thing that affects CS. So if you've then got an individual target based on the performance of a product, again, there's a tension there because the CSM's like, well, I'm doing my best here.
Yeah, if you've had like a lot of bugs come into the product or uptime issues, there's only so much that the CSM can do to rescue that, right? So.
Precisely, yeah.
Back to your point, it's a team sport. All right, next question. Johnny, this one is specifically for you. The uncapped on-target earnings depends on seniority. Is more a bonus than a variable compensation? When do they get it? Monthly based or yearly?
It's a quarterly thing. So we have four targets a year, one for each quarter. So we're paid on month 4. And is it more a bonus than a variable compensation? I mean, I don't know.
This is the same person asking about the spiffs. It's this bonus.
Yeah, isn't that the same thing?
Mm-hmm.
They're just variably compensated, depending on where we land. So there's actually, so there's no floor, there's no ceiling, and people get different percentages, basically, based on how much we renew. So it's a sliding scale.
Thank you. Next question for Slido. If you don't have variable portion, does it mean that you pay the additional 12 to 20% on their base to stay competitive?
We're definitely keen on trying to ensure that our salaries are competitive. I should probably mention the majority of our employees are based in our headquarters in Slovakia, and we really try to focus on ensuring that we have kind of competitive salaries in the market, both there and for the people in the regions. But we do have a fair element of kind of variable compensation that comes through our team, the company targets. So for every certain amount of revenue that we make, we get kind of additional money every single month. So everyone's salary is still kind of 90% base plus this 10%, which varies from month to month, depending on how well we're doing as a company.
Yeah, at Gainsight, we're actually once a year doing benchmarks on salary, which I think is a great thing. And I've heard a lot of companies introducing a more frequent cadence to understand salary to ensure that they're competitive in the market. There's a lot of demand for CSMs these days, right?
Yeah.
All right, next question. What are your thoughts on CSM teams who do not own revenue targets being compensated based on key adoption KPIs or key performance indicators?
You go first.
I think it's a cracking idea, quite frankly. Ord, who is my counterpart, who's here also, has an emerging team who don't necessarily all own revenue targets, but have MBOs that they go after and key objectives they're given on any given quarter, which I think is wonderful, and I'm all for it. This is more specifically about adoption KPIs. I think that's a really, really interesting thing to put in. We're not quite there yet, just because adoption takes many, many different forms on our platform. So we could be dealing with Microsoft, and they've only got 2 users, but that's what they're supposed to have. That's their model, which is risky as hell. But kind of there we go. So I guess the important thing to mention here is it's about getting the right KPIs in. We start to look at things like NPS score, but it has to be a service NPS score, because if it's a product NPS score, it's unfair. So I'm all for it, but I think it has to be the right metrics.
I think, like if I look at what our CSM, our metrics in our CSM team, one of them is kind of adoption. And what I'm really looking at when I'm looking at the figures is what does that adoption rate look like? Because that's a very key indicator of what the revenue is going to be. And if it came to kind of putting into place some kind of compensation around this, I think I would much prefer to do it around that opposed to the money, because then they're really trying to drive that customer success with our product opposed to just trying to drive the revenue. We really have this phrase where we look at things a little bit the other way around, I think, where we say, like, chase the success and the money will follow. Whereas I think a lot of companies, they chase the money and success will follow. So, we're really focusing on making sure that doesn't happen. So.
Excellent. Next question. Do CSMs with variable comp also do onboarding as well as renewals?
Yep. In Brandwatch, we do that. We're there for the whole journey. By do onboarding is a bit vague, but we're literally there from the welcome email to kind of booking in a kickoff call. But we are partnered with our professional services team. We tend to come into our own once they're kind of onboarded, but yeah, we're there for the whole journey.
Yeah, we don't actually have like professional services or anything like that, so that's like fully owned by our CSM team. So.
The next debate in this room is actually whether CSM should do onboarding and support. So if you're really interested, hang out in this room, and there'll be more conversation on that very specific topic, actually. Next question for this session. Johnny, with 48 CSMs, how many account manager new logo salespeople do you have?
It's tricky because now you've got 2 companies to consider, right?
Oh, yeah. Ben, can you help me out on your side?
He's using his phone a friend.
Yeah, can we do that? But I mean, at Brandwatch, because we've got 48 CSMs, and the global accounts team is probably 7 or 8 people. We have just 2 in the UK. In fact, that 48 is a global number. We only have the global accounts team in the more established markets, which is UK and North America. So that's confusing. But we have about 7 or 8 global accounts people.
I think whoever asked this question should grab him after
Yeah.
and have an offline conversation for sure about the ratios, because I think it's that idea of what's the ratio is interesting.
Yeah, it's a good question.
Yeah,
And-
grab him
and-
after the
and how-
session, and we'll make him hunt down the real numbers. All right, next question. How do you assign customers to your CSM when having a comp model? I'm going to assume that's a variable comp model. Or maybe just you could both answer that question.
I mean, as I mentioned before, I have different levels of CSM. So a customer success director, a senior, and a regular CSM. And we segment rather uncoolly on revenue alone. So it's a case of, if it's a certain size customer, it goes to the customer success director and below. There is grouping. So I have someone that's really into gaming and someone that's really into retail. So I do pay attention to that. But the comp model doesn't impede my decision-making of where an account goes, I wouldn't say. I'd be interested to know what the thinking is behind that question.
I'm guessing it's like if you give them this account and it's worth this much and you know that their percentage is this much, like, is that going to affect your bottom line?
But it's a team target. So it's overcome by the fact that we have one number to hit and one group of clients to hit that with. It's just we're individually rewarded.
Mm-hmm. And I think this is kind of touching on what the next question is. Are you setting individual quotas or bonusing the team on an overall target? I think we've touched on that a little bit, but if you'd like to recap.
So we are thinking about it. It's a natural next step, I suppose. But what we are doing is moving to individual forecasting. So I'm getting the guys to understand how many renewals they have, what revenue's exposed. We look at and then they need to tell me what their best, worst, and call is going to be. And we look at a percentage, and I'm starting to look at that as a measure of success. Like, even not how many do you really, but just how accurately can you forecast what's going to happen? What's your control like? That's really, really important, is the idea of control. So we're not setting individual quotas at the minute, but we are looking at individual forecasting.
And yeah, our bonus is kind of set on the whole. We change it as we kind of grow and we develop, but is the whole kind of the metrics kind of stay the same throughout. So.
All right, next question. How do you stop tension with sales and CS if sales receives variable comp and CS does not? The age-old, I do all the work, they make all the money.
Is this? I think you said that you both have variable comp, right? So.
Yeah, but I think this is talking about
stopping it in general.
How do you stop it if you don't have that?
I think it totally makes sense that there would be tension there because it's not fair, right? You don't want one person to have the right one thing and another person not to have something. I was talking to Dave Jackson. I don't know if you guys know him, but he was telling me about a story about HubSpot, I think from quite a few years ago when they were quite early on, about they looked at where their churn was and they found that the rate of churn at the end of the month or end of a quarter was much higher because the people were just trying to get their quotas in and to hit those models. So like if you have that and then a CS is inheriting all of those accounts, like of course there's going to be tension and there's going to be frustration. And I think you just have to make it fair across the teams and either remove the variable compensation or kind of like give it to both people.
Yeah. Or at the end of the day, right, the last debate, the CEO was talking about choice, right? A customer success professional isn't like, you know, they have a choice of what role they work in. And if you're sat there like feeling hard done by because you're not getting rewarded, like go be a salesperson. Like, you know,
Yeah, it's that.
like to just sit there and be like, oh, this isn't fair. It's like, well, okay, go sell some stuff.
Just
If that's your model.
You just recommended everyone move to the dark side. All right,
I'm
next.
saying it's a choice.
It is a choice, absolutely. Next question, customer success is about renewal. Are you seeing the variable part connected to the retention numbers? Like drawing those two things together.
Yeah, I think definitely. It helps sharpen the mind, and it helps give, you know, I talked about that kind of common purpose thing. And by the way, our common purpose is not like, clarity of purpose. It's not like, retain, follow me. You know, we have many things, as I've shown you, which we hold ourselves accountable for. But, you know, renewals is a big focus. It's one of our leading performance metrics. And yeah, you know, having the variable part and knowing that if we don't hit our target, we're not going to get a big enough bonus, definitely helps kind of provide focus. But it's so important to have loads of other cool stuff going on. Otherwise, you get that tunnel vision, you miss shit, and you end up renewing in horrible ways and eroding your margin, damaging your reputation. And so, yeah. But so I think managed in the right way can really help. I think.
Makes sense. I'm not sure I have much to add here.
No
so.
problem. No problem.
Sorry.
No problem at all. Next question. If comped on renewals/expansion, what are your thoughts on accelerators for advocacy/NPS?
I think it makes sense, right? We all know that, like, and again, I think a theme that's been coming up a lot here has been that customer success should be a growth engine, and how do you encourage growth without having those advocates in your customer base and without kind of like having a really strong NPS, and it's hard to grow growth. I think the advocacy NPS stuff is much more interesting way of looking at variable compensation than kind of just around renewals and expansion. Because again, it comes back to that doing the right things for the right reasons, the right behaviors.
Yeah.
Sort of. I sound like a broken record. But
No. But this is a point we completely agree on.
definitely.
Because renewal, we talk a lot about moving people from behavioral loyalty to attitudinal loyalty. Behavioral loyalty is, I shop at Tesco because it's on my way to work and it's on my way home. That is behavioral, because it's on my way. Their products are all right, staff are a bit rude, fine. Attitudinal loyalty is, I shop at Tesco because I love it. I love the staff, I love the products, and oh yeah, happens to be on my way home. So we focus a lot about moving people from behavioral, which is a renewal, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to renew because I can't be asked going to RFP, or I've left it too late, or I can't be bothered with the hassle.
It's too much effort.
Too much effort.
Right?
I'm going to renew with these guys. It's not necessarily a sign of success. Advocacy, getting someone to promote you and sell you, is absolutely that. So I'm all for this. Yeah.
So interestingly, I think the reference to advocacy and the reference to NPS is a little bit different. I actually think NPS can be a great metric to measure. I'm not sure it's a great metric to comp on. However, comping on advocacy is, in my mind, something different. So if I get a customer to participate in our marketing reference program or doing some other type of advocacy for us, I think that's a great way to bonus comp. But the NPS survey, great metric, no doubt, but there's so many things that influence NPS. And if it's not your decision maker or executive sponsor responding and the NPS for that customer doesn't turn out the way you expect, it can just be a little bit tricky. I also think in some cases NPS can be gamified a little bit. So I love the idea personally of advocacy more so than NPS. If anybody wants to talk about this at the break too, feel free to come grab me.
We've just set up like an advocacy program and piece of software as well.
Influitive, yeah. Very
and
familiar, great company.
It's really cool, and it is gamified for clients, and I want to start plugging my team into it and gamifying it for them. I think it helps with the growth engine, and yeah.
And here you are advocating for them on stage. So.
Yeah, exactly, yeah, exactly.
I love it. Next question. Joe, what happens in your business if clients churn? How do you hold that CSM accountable?
That's a really good question. I think what I should probably explain about our business is we have quite a serious long tail, quite a lot of kind of low value, kind of low cost. I don't know what the right word is to describe them there, but quite a lot of people who are not spending that much money with us. And you know, it wouldn't be fair for me to hold all of them accountable for when those customers churn, because there's only so much they can do. There's only so many times that those customers actually want to pick up the phone and have a call with them or to have a meeting with them, because they're like, it's that same kind of complacency and apathy that I'm sure lots of people kind of experience. So like for those customers, I can't hold them accountable, because actually it needs to be the products. Like it has to kind of come through the whole customer journey in that side. And then in regards to the higher tier customers, I think I don't know if it comes back to accountability just at the moment of the point of churn. If you believe that CSM has done everything that they can, like throughout the journey, and you've worked with them and you've got kind of the right risk framework in place, and you guys believe that you've done everything that you possibly can in order to retain that customer, then that customer kind of like is outside of your control to a certain point. So
Yeah, it sounds like you're saying in some cases retention and individual CSM performance are measured and managed differently. Mm-hmm. And that makes sense. That makes sense. All right, next question. And we have time for just a few more questions, and then we're going to be going back to our poll in just a few moments. So next question, what about a mix of team bonus and individual commissions? I was wondering when the word commissions was going to surface in this discussion today.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of what we do. I'm getting really confused by commission and variable comp. Like, for me, it's the same thing. But that's what we do at Brandwatch. So there is individual comp based on how we perform as a team. So, but the new business element, so we get any new business that's sold into an existing account in that quarter, we will get a percentage of. That is capped, but then that pot gets split by how many CSMs are on that given team. So there is both an individual commission based on a team performance and a team bonus out of a pot from a new business aspect. And interestingly, this is quite nice, we also have an end of year thing as well. So based on how each of the 4 quarters have played out, I think if we're above like 96, 97%, we get an additional kicker. So there is like an annual view of how we're doing as well, just to help. So if you have a shit quarter, you've still got a chance to make it up
for later.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
All right, last couple of questions here, maybe 2 more. Slido, do you only compensate if the company overachieves, or have a standard prorated bonus for the entire org?
I think, let me tell you the story of how our kind of compensation plan kind of came into play. So we're a bootstrap business, and when we first started out, we didn't really have any money. So we obviously needed to be bringing that money in. So we were paying quite a low kind of base salary, like the minimum that we kind of had to pay. And so instead, in order to kind of incentivize and make sure like everyone was responsible, so to make everyone like feel a part of it, what we did was bring in, like for every 500 euros that we made each month, everyone got 50 euros. So it kind of made it fair. And obviously that kind of 500 euro figure has changed as we've grown bigger, but it's still kind of based on 50 euros for every X amount of money that we make each month is what you get. And that's kind of in line with our revenue targets for the month and for the kind of the different periods of time. So.
And generally, folks like things that are simple and easy to track.
Yeah, like we really brought this in because it was kind of a necessity. And our CEO would say, or I was talking to him about it earlier, and he was like, I didn't feel like I could just give it to one person, like the salesperson, because everybody played such a big part in that revenue being generated that it wasn't fair. And it's just something that's kind of stuck with us as we've grown bigger.
All right, the last question. Any suggestions on how to move to a variable comp model for your CSMs when they've not had one for a long time or not had one ever, maybe?
start really small. No.
That's
Yeah.
practical advice.
Well, it's practical advice. It's rather cynical. But I think if they've not had it for a long time, maybe start with a team bonus, something that kind of galvanizes everyone and gets them together based on so you've got a team target. I guess there's a question back there, which is, are they going to have individual targets? If not, maybe have a bonus pot, and then see how that goes. Get them used to being against a target and forecasting and talking in that language. And as you start seeing, hopefully, results and getting into a rhythm, maybe then start to look at individual, kind of comp packages, and start running it from there. But
Like for me, I would say, I know we're not doing this, but the way I would approach it is that I would think about why are you doing this, and like making sure that the team fully understands kind of what's in it for them, and really like manage them through the change kind of slowly. I wouldn't turn it on overnight. I think it's really important to also like to find out from them if it resonates from them. If it's that you're getting pressure from your board in order to bring in this variable compensation because they think it's going to drive the right behavior, like have that open and honest conversation with your team, see if it makes sense for them, or if actually bringing in a different, like slightly different approach to what the board suggests is actually going to drive better behavior from the team. Like you have to consult with them, like if you want it to work, I would say.
Yeah, get their buy-in. Always starting with the why is great. All right, in this last couple of minutes, we're going to switch back to the Slido poll that we took at the very beginning. After hearing the conversation today, thank you, Joe and Johnny, again, for your insights and their perspective. Please feel free to take the poll.
The only
Should
time is gonna be like
CSMs have variable compensation? I will remind you while you're voting that in the very beginning, we had 63% for yes, 13% for no, 0 I don't know. So people have not left more confused, which is good. And it depends was 24%. And I think what we're seeing in the poll now is a little bit of validation of potentially what you thought when you first came in the room. There could be some no's that switched to yeses and yes that switched to no's. But hopefully you've gotten some good insights and maybe potentially some validation. So we'll go ahead and stop the polling now. And thank you all so much for your participation in our debate session today. Thank you again, Joe and Johnny. Really appreciate it. Have a great rest of your day.
Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the stage Rush Drury, Director of Customer Success EMEA at Workfront, Shirley Chapman, Director of Customer Success EMEA and Moderator